We're back with Headkeeper David Whitby in Sussex. Last time we met his family and got to see some of his alternative management techniques. In this visit it's about deer. The wild ones outside the estate and the park animals inside it, where every October they congregate in impressive numbers for the rut. It's a rare sight. We've been lucky enough to film this extraordinary behaviour once before in the state-owned hunting ground of Giulai in Hungary.
That is a lot of deer. It's one of wildlife's spectacles, isn't it? Just tell us what we've got there.
Well, you've got a herd of fallow deer, and it's the lek, as you can probably hear the groaning. It wasn't a very good the groaning that's going on behind, and our fallow are not unique, but one of three parks that actually show lek activities, and it's the gathering of males in a fairly small area, displaying and attracting the females. It's female selection, ain't that the world over? They decide who's going to mate with them, and that's what's going on in the background. You've got bucks that are displaying, that have got their territory, making their noise. And apparently that vocal groaning is particularly important in attracting the doe. We see it in ruffs and reeves, black grouse, some antelope show this lekking behaviour, and 3 herds of fallow deer in the world. This is one of them.
We said this film was about deer, but when you were chatting to David, you learn about all sorts. For example, the reason for the uneven ground here is thanks to grey partridges.
These are yellow meadow ant hills, and they were brought in for grey partridge, I don't know, 100 years ago or something like that. And you could dig, if you'd got greys reared under bantams in those days or whatever, you could, the ants move their eggs to face the sun. So if the sun's coming from there, you could dig out that section, put it in a bag or something, and feed the partridge chicks on the eggs. And naturally they'd feed on these anyway as they spread around the wild. One of our most common insects, the yellow meadow ant now, but these were introduced here, I believe, for grey partridge.
You see these all over the country, and I've always thought it was ants, but I didn't realise that there was a game connection.
Well, you've got to remember, sadly, no longer, but at one time the grey partridge was the king of the game birds in the lowland. And when I was a boy, they were everywhere, absolutely everywhere. The best thing to shoot, the best thing on a plate. Just an amazing little bird that sadly hasn't coped with modern agriculture. Blame the vegans.
More about vegans later.
It's swinging now, it's that way. It was that way a second ago.
In the meantime, let's join David on a wild deer stalk with his good friend Jimmy.
So, young roebucks, young fallow bucks, and muntjac. It's a blustery morning. That can work for you and against you. Deer tend to be a bit more alert when it's really windy, but everything's moving, everything's cracking and crunching. Even the elephant stalkers can get onto a deer in this sort of weather or stand more of a chance, because usually when it's very windy it's one directional, which helps. This morning it does seem to be changing a little bit, but nothing we can do about that.
And you've got a novice stalker out with you?
I've got a total novice, absolutely.
Ow, I've just been bashed on the head.
Absolutely useless, yeah. But you know, we have to work sometimes with what we've got, and that's, if that's what you've got, look, if that's it, and goodness help us, let's go.
David takes it slow. He knows this ground like the back of his hand. We spot deer as we go, but the one he wants provides no shot.
You know, one of the only 2 natural species of deer found in Britain, and we cherish our roe.
Do you normally see them gathering like that? Is that I mean,
Yeah,
not known as a herd species, would that be classed as a herd?
They're family groups. They're a group species. They don't herd the way that fallow do, particularly during the winter, obviously. But you get family groups, and in that group, and I know it fairly well, there are 2 buck kids, a middle-aged buck that we're leaving because he's quite promising, he looks good. And we've got 2 yearling bucks, and that was one of those that we'd like to, that we'd take out. Perfect for the table.
Nice stalking experience for our client. But we've got plenty of row. We'll move on and find another one. There's one in the green. Oh, there is, yeah, I see it.
With good management comes a good quality product, and the estate produces a lot of venison. In the chiller and cutting room, David's colleague Will is butchering a pricket. The market is normally strong. However, 2020 has thrown a spanner in the works, and like many deer managers, he is concerned about supply exceeding demand.
As the market shrunk, so the venison price has crashed, and we're fortunately finding a small local market and doing what we can. You can't stop shooting the deer. We spoke earlier about a finite area. Will only hold so many animals. You've got to continue to shoot, and therefore you've got to find a market for what is one of the best meats there is. It's the lowest in calories, cholesterol and fat of any meat, including poultry, fish, anything. And yet it's the highest in protein, or on par with things like bison, buffalo and antelope. So it's a superfood recommended to heart patients, and yet at the moment struggling to sell it.
Having blanked on the morning stalk, we head out for the last hour of light.
It can only get better.
Lunch is good.
We'll get one here. We've got a lot of deer in this area, and we definitely need to take some out. We could do with a young buck again for the table. We've got 3 species here. You know, it's windy weather again. It's changing and undulating as it was this morning, but that's okay. We just have to, if he finishes slamming doors and banging gates, we might stand slightly more of a chance, but you have to work with what you've got, really, don't you?
To try and pull something from the undergrowth, David throws in a few calls. It is not our day. Let's hear one last time from David. He feels that it's because gamekeepers truly understand the natural environment, they are the ones willing to make the tough wildlife management decisions that others choose to ignore.
So I love deer. You've seen the deer in my garden, you know, but I also see a need to control them. I enjoy the hunt. It's what we did when we crawled out of a pond looking something like an amoeba. We've always hunted. In this world, you're either a hunter or you're hunted. In some cases, of course, you're both. Fact, you can't take that away. It's, you know, whether you eat your meat that comes wrapped in cellophane and you don't recognise it as such, or whether indeed you're a vegan, the crops you're growing are killing far more creatures than ever we do. You know, every field of lettuce is sprayed goodness knows how many times. It can't have a living creature in it. Well, indirectly, if you're a vegan, you're responsible for that. We just happen to stand up and say, look, this is what we believe in. We believe in a balanced countryside and getting that balance right. And this is what we do, and this is how we bring it about. It's just different points of view, but, you know, I happen to believe we're right.
For more information about the Sealand clothing worn by David and his team, go to gb.sealand.com.